A clone trooper is dying on a warehouse floor. The lower levels of Coruscant. The air smells like ozone and blaster discharge. ARC Trooper CT-5555 Fives is on his back, armor cracked, a smoking hole where Commander Fox's blaster bolt punched through. Rex is holding him. Rex is always holding the ones who fall, but this one is different, because this one knew. Fives figured it all out. The chips, the conspiracy, the Chancellor. He traced the whole rotten architecture of Palpatine's 13-year plan back to its source, and he ran screaming through the streets of the galactic capital, trying to warn anyone who would listen. Nobody listened. They called him unstable. They called him dangerous. They hunted him through the lower levels like an animal, until Fox and the Coruscant Guard kicked in the door and put a bolt through the one man in the galaxy who could have stopped what was coming. The mission, the nightmares, they're finally over. Those are Five's last words. Rex hears them. Rex holds his brother while the light leaves his eyes, and something plants itself in Rex's mind. Not the full picture, not yet, but a seed, a doubt. Enough to matter later, when it matters most. In our timeline, the real one, Fives dies, and the truth dies with him. Order 66 fires. The Jedi fall. The clones become instruments of genocide. The galaxy burns. But what if the man who silenced Fives accidentally proved him right? It is 19 BBY, months after Fives bled out on that warehouse floor. Sheev Palpatine, Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic, secret Dark Lord of the Sith, the architect of every single thing that led to Fives' death, sits alone in his office on Coruscant. His face looks like someone left a candle on a radiator. Minutes ago, he unleashed torrents of force lightning at Mace Windu, and whether the scarring is real damage or just the mask of normalcy finally cracking off, the result is the same. He looks like a man who could haunt a house without trying. He's just christened Anakin Skywalker as Darth Vader and sent him marching toward the Jedi Temple with the 501st Legion, Five's old unit, Rex's boys, to begin Operation Nightfall. The massacre of every Jedi inside those walls, including the children. Now comes the final stroke, the culmination of everything. He activates his holographic communicator. Commander Cody's blue-tinged image flickers to life from the surface of Utapau, where Obi-Wan Kenobi is still mid-battle with General Grievous. Palpatine's ruined lips part, and in that rasping, triumphant voice he says, "Commander Cody, the time has come. Execute Order 65. 3 seconds of dead silence. It was at that moment Palpatine realized he fucked up. One single wrong digit between galactic domination and the most catastrophic cell phone in the history of the Republic. Order 66. Kill every Jedi in the galaxy. Order 65. Arrest and remove the Supreme Chancellor from power. Him. He just ordered his own army to come get him. It was a misinput. Somewhere in the Force, Fives is laughing. But here's the thing, and this is the question that should be gnawing at you right now. The question that Fives' entire investigation was building toward without him ever knowing it. Would Order 65 actually work? Because the order wasn't designed to be triggered by the Chancellor. It was built to be used against him. The protocol's text, first laid out in the Republic Commando training manuals Karen Travis published back in 2007, specified that the Chancellor would be detained, removed from office, and replaced by a successor until a proper Senate election could be held. But it referenced authorization from the Senate Security Committee, the Vice Chair Masamita, GAR High Command, the Jedi Council, a whole web of bureaucratic checkpoints supposed to prevent exactly this kind of unilateral activation. So maybe Palpatine catches a break. Maybe the clones hear the order, scratch their helmets, and wait for authorization that'll never come. Maybe. Except the clones have inhibitor chips in their heads. The very chips Fives discovered. The ones he died trying to expose. And those chips, or more precisely, what those chips don't do, change everything. Every clone trooper grown on Kamino had a small organic chip implanted in their brain during development. The Kaminoans told the Jedi these chips were designed to curb the aggressive tendencies inherited from the Jango Fett genetic template. Fives proved that was a lie. He traced the truth across multiple star systems, from the sterile labs of Kamino to the depths of Coruscant. And what he found was this: the chips existed for one purpose: to guarantee absolute, overriding compliance with Order 66 specifically. When those words hit the comm channel, the chips would hijack clone neural pathways, suppress personality, erase every bond formed over 3 years of shared combat, loyalty, friendship, love, and replace it all with a single compulsion: kill the Jedi. No questions, no hesitation, no choice. Fives discovered this. Fives tried to tell everyone. Fives died for it. And here's the wrinkle that makes this entire scenario sing. The wrinkle Fives was circling when Fox's blaster cut him short. The inhibitor chips were engineered specifically for Order 66. That was the Sith insurance policy. Palpatine knew his clones had grown close to their Jedi generals through years of brutal warfare. Standard conditioning might not be enough to make a man shoot his friend in the back. So the chips guaranteed it. One order, one override, one kill switch. The other 149 contingency orders in the Grand Army's protocol library? Standard military procedures. No chip activation, no neural hijacking, no puppet strings. So when Order 65 arrives at a clone trooper's helmet comm, the chip doesn't fire. There's no Sith override, no suppression of personality, no erasure of who they are. The clone hears the order with his own mind intact. He processes it as a thinking, feeling, choosing soldier. For the first time in their engineered lives, the clones get to decide for themselves. This is what Fives died for. Not the specific order, not this exact scenario, but this, the right to choose, the one thing the chips were designed to steal from every clone in the galaxy. Fives fought for it and lost. And now, through the most absurd accident imaginable, every clone in the Grand Army just got it handed to them. The universe has a sick sense of humor. Now let's talk about what Palpatine just threw away, because the comedy is proportional to the catastrophe. And to understand the catastrophe, you have to understand what Fives was really up against. The sheer scale of the machine that crushed him. 32 BBY. Palpatine is the senator from Naboo, or so the galaxy believes. In truth, he's Darth Sidious, and he orchestrates the Trade Federation's invasion of his own homeworld, his own planet. He manufactures a crisis so devastating that Chancellor Finis Valorum looks paralyzed, then guides a teenage Queen Amidala, a pawn who never knew she was one, into calling a vote of no confidence. Valorum falls. Palpatine rises. Applause all around. Nobody sees the strings. Then a decade of slow, patient poison. He directs his apprentice, Count Dooku, to build a separatist movement that threatens to shatter the Republic, while simultaneously ensuring a secret clone army is growing on Kamino, commissioned years earlier through the manipulation of Jedi Master Sifo Dyas. By 22 BBY and the Battle of Geonosis, Palpatine owns both sides of a galactic war. Both sides. The Senate grants him emergency powers. The clones march under his command. For 3 more years, he conducts a conflict against himself, calibrating every battle to exhaust the Jedi, erode democracy, and drag Anakin Skywalker deeper into fear and dependency. He feeds Anakin's nightmares. He whispers about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. He positions himself as the only man in the galaxy who understands. And during all of this, during the final stretch of the Clone Wars, while Palpatine is tightening the noose, one clone trooper in the 501st starts asking questions nobody is supposed to ask. Fives didn't set out to unravel a galaxy-spanning conspiracy. It started with a malfunction. Season 6 of the Clone Wars, the arc called The Lost Missions, episodes titled The Unknown, Conspiracy, Fugitive, and Orders. A clone named Tup, serving alongside Fives, snapped mid-battle. His inhibitor chip degraded prematurely, and he killed Jedi General Tiplar. Not on command. Not by choice. Something in his head just switched. One moment he was a soldier. The next he was a weapon with no understanding of why. Fives saw it happen, and Fives wouldn't let it go. That's what made him dangerous. Not his combat skills, not his ARC trooper designation, but the fact that he pulled at threads. He pulled at this one until the conspiracy started unraveling in his hands. He tracked the malfunction back to Kamino, demanded answers from the Kaminoan scientists, discovered the chips weren't what anyone said they were. He found that every clone, every single one of his brothers, had been implanted with a device designed to override their free will at a specific command. He traced the origins of the program upward, through layers of classification and misdirection, until the trail pointed at the Chancellor's office. He got close, terrifyingly close. Close enough that Palpatine had to intervene personally, manipulating events to frame Fives as mentally unstable, a danger to himself and others, a rogue trooper who'd gone off the deep end. The Kaminoans were complicit. The official channels were sealed, and Fives, stripped of allies, stripped of credibility, stripped of everything except the truth and his own stubborn refusal to stop talking, ran. He ran through the lower levels of Coruscant, hunted, desperate. He managed to get Rex and Anakin alone in a warehouse on Coruscant's lower levels, and there, voice cracking, eyes wild, sounding like every conspiracy theorist the galaxy has ever dismissed, he tried to explain. The chips, the Order, the Chancellor, all of it. He sounded insane, and he knew he sounded insane, and the tragedy is that every single word he said was true. Before he could make them understand, before Rex could fully process what his brother was telling him, Fox and the Coruscant Guard burst through the door. Fox shot him. Fives fell. Rex caught him. And in those last moments, bleeding out on a cold warehouse floor, Fives managed to plant the seed that would eventually save Rex's life. Not enough information to stop Order 66. Not enough to save the Jedi. Just enough that when the chips finally fired and Rex felt his own mind being ripped away from him aboard a Venator-class Star Destroyer during the siege of Mandalore, he remembered. He fought the override long enough to choke out the words to Ahsoka Tano through tears and compulsion. Find him. Fives. Find him. Fives. Ahsoka understood. She captured Rex. She and the astromech droids removed his inhibitor chip. Rex survived. But that's the real timeline. The one where Fives' sacrifice saved one man and lost a galaxy. In this timeline, Palpatine said 65, and every truth Fives uncovered, every chip, every protocol, every thread of the conspiracy he pulled loose, is about to be validated by the one person who wanted it buried most. Here's where it gets beautiful. Structurally beautiful, like a punchline the universe spent 13 years setting up just for Fives. There's a detail most people don't know. A detail that transforms this from a comedy of errors into poetic justice so precise it feels like the Force itself authored it. Palpatine didn't just tolerate Order 65's existence among the 150 contingency protocols baked into clone training on Kamino. He likely helped put it there. Follow the logic, because it tracks perfectly. Palpatine, through Dooku, was involved in the creation of the clone army from its very inception. He shaped its purpose, its programming, its command structure. The Kaminoan leadership knew full well that Sith interests guided the project. They were compliant partners, not unwitting tools. Order 66 was obviously the crown jewel, the hidden dagger meant for the Jedi. But Order 65, an order authorizing the arrest and removal of the sitting Chancellor, served a different purpose. Many in the lore community believe, and Palpatine's character architecture powerfully supports it, that he included Order 65 as a backup plan during the period before he held the chancellorship, a failsafe to remove Finis Valorum by military force if his political manipulation on Naboo failed. Picture his thinking in 32 BBY. He's engineering Valorum's downfall through the Naboo crisis. But what if the vote of no confidence doesn't pass? What if Valorum clings to power? Palpatine always had contingencies nested inside contingencies, like a Sith nesting doll. An order authorizing the clone army to arrest the sitting Chancellor would be an elegant last resort. A military coup he could trigger if democracy refused to cooperate. He never needed it. The political route worked perfectly. Valorum fell, Palpatine rose, and Order 65 became a dusty line item in a training manual, a loaded gun tossed in a drawer and forgotten, until the gun's owner accidentally shot himself with it. The man who silenced Fives just activated the weapon Fives was trying to warn everyone about, in reverse. The greatest Sith Lord in 1,000 years built a gun, aimed it at his own chair, and pulled the trigger. And he built it so well that it works perfectly. Now picture the galaxy freezing. The order propagates instantaneously across the Grand Army's communication network, the same infrastructure that would have carried Order 66 to every battlefield, every Star Destroyer, every forward operating base in the Republic. There is no recall mechanism, no unsend button, no, wait, I meant the other one. The words are already being received on Utapau, Felucia, Kashyyyk, Megiddo, Cato Nemoidia, every planet where clone troopers serve. Fives brothers, every single one of them. Commander Cody, CC-2224, commanding the 212th Attack Battalion on the sinkhole surface of Utapau. Obi-Wan Kenobi just handed him back his lightsaber with a friendly, "so uncivilized." In the real timeline, Cody takes that lightsaber, waits for Kenobi to turn his back, and orders a tank cannon to blast him off a cliff. In this timeline, Cody's staring at his helmet comm, blinking, trying to process why the Supreme Chancellor just ordered him to arrest the Supreme Chancellor. He's standing on another planet, in the middle of a battle against General Grievous's droid forces. The sheer logistical absurdity is enough to short-circuit a man's brain. Commander Bly, CC-5052, walking through the jungles of Felucia, directly behind Jedi General Aayla Secura. In the real timeline, he shoots her in the back. Silent. Casual. One of the most gut-wrenching executions in the entire saga. A woman gunned down by men she trusted, who never even saw it coming. In this timeline, Secura is fine. Bly is squinting at his comm like a man who just received a text in a language he doesn't speak. And Five's sister, in the 327th, gets to keep her general. Commander Gree, CC-1004, on Kashyyyk beside Yoda and the Wookiees. Real timeline. He tries to shoot the 800-year-old Jedi Master and loses his own head for the effort. Literally. This timeline. Yoda probably senses Gree's bewilderment rippling through the Force and produces the most perplexed expression that ancient green face has ever worn. Commander Wolf, CC-3636, leading the Wolf Pack under Jedi General Plo Koon over Cato Nemoidia. In the real timeline, Plo Koon's starfighter gets blown out of the sky, gone in a flash of fire and silence. In this timeline, Wolf hesitates. Wolf is interesting. He later appears in Star Wars Rebels, having removed his own inhibitor chip entirely, one of the most independently minded clones alive. Without the chip's influence, receiving an order to arrest a Chancellor he's never fully trusted? Wolf might be the first commander in the galaxy to actually reach for his comm and say yes. Across 1,000 star systems, Jedi are not dying. Lightsabers stay clipped to belts. Blaster bolts never fire. The massacre Fives tried to prevent, the one he gave his life to stop, simply doesn't happen. Not because someone listened to him. Not because the system worked. Because a tired old Sith Lord fumbled a number. Fives would have hated the reason. But he would have loved the result. The montage stops here. The pace changes. Because the clone who matters most in this moment isn't on some distant battlefield watching his Jedi General not die. He's already on Coruscant, already in the Senate District, already within walking distance of the Chancellor's office. Commander Fox, CC-1010, Commander of the Coruscant Guard. Fox is the one who killed Fives. Let that land. The clone who shot CT-5555 in that warehouse, who followed orders shaped by Palpatine's conspiracy, who pulled the trigger on the one man who could have exposed everything, is now the closest armed clone to the Chancellor who gave those orders. Fox's unit provides security for the Senate district, for the Chancellor's office, for the very room where Palpatine is sitting right now, alone and scarred, having just sent his only real muscle, Vader and the 501st, marching toward a Jedi temple full of targets that are no longer targets. Fox receives Order 65. His chip doesn't fire. His mind is his own. And in that mind, whether he understands the full scope of what was done through him or not, there is the memory of a brother falling on a warehouse floor. A brother who said the Chancellor was the enemy. A brother Fox killed because the system told him to. The system is now telling him something different. Fox doesn't hesitate. He mobilizes the Coruscant Guard. They move through the Senate corridors with purpose, not the zombified lockstep of Order 66, but the deliberate, clear-eyed advance of soldiers who know exactly what they're doing and why. Fox reaches the Chancellor's door. He kicks it in. Palpatine, scarred, alone, his apprentice gone, his plan in ashes, the most meticulous schemer in galactic history undone by his own tongue, looks up at the squad of clone troopers filing through the doorway with blasters raised. Yellow Sith eyes meeting the black visors of men he built to be weapons. For the first time in 13 years, the smartest man in the galaxy has absolutely nothing to say. Anakin, newly christened Darth Vader for all of about 6 minutes, is at the steps of the Jedi Temple when every clone in the 501st stops moving. Their comms are alive with chatter. New orders. Orders that have nothing to do with the Jedi and everything to do with the man who just sent them here. Five's old unit. Five's brothers. Standing at the threshold of a massacre they will never commit, because a dead man's truth just echoed back through the one voice nobody expected. What Anakin does next, whether the boy from Tatooine finds his way back from the edge, that's a story for another day. But Fox isn't the end of this. Fox is the arrest. Fox is the justice of the system. What comes next is personal. Weeks pass. The Senate moves. Trials begin. The truth about the inhibitor chips floods across the HoloNet. The same truth Five screamed into deaf ears on the lower levels. And the galaxy reels. The manufactured war. The Sith conspiracy. The clone army's stolen agency. Every hidden thread Fives pulled loose is now public record, and his name is attached to every revelation. CT-5555, the clone who knew. Rex travels to Coruscant. He walks through the lower levels, past the industrial sectors, past the warehouse where his brother bled out reaching for him, trying to pass the truth forward with his last breath. Rex doesn't stop there. There's nothing left to find. Just a floor someone cleaned months ago, and a silence that doesn't answer questions. He goes to the Republic Detention Center instead. There's a cell. Inside it sits a ruined man in a simple prisoner's tunic. No Sith robes, no Chancellor's finery, no Senate podium to stand behind. Just Sheev Palpatine, smaller than Rex expected, older than anyone realized, staring at a wall with yellow eyes that have stopped calculating. The 13-year plan, the two identities, the manufactured war, the corruption of Anakin, the army of slaves, the stolen children on Camino, grown in tubes and implanted with chips and sent to die for a republic that was already a Sith empire wearing a mask. All of it, every single thread, unraveled by one wrong number. Rex stands outside the cell. He doesn't need to go in, doesn't need to raise his voice, doesn't need Palpatine to respond, or apologize, or even look at him. He just needs the man to hear. Rex thinks about Fives, about the warehouse, about holding his brother while the light left his eyes, about the mission, the nightmares, they're finally over, about the seed Fives planted, the doubt, the warning, the desperate gift of knowledge passed from a dying man to the only person still listening. He thinks about what Fives would say if he were here. Probably something loud. Probably something angry. Fives was never quiet about things that mattered. But Rex is. He says it softly. Not a shout, not a battle cry. Just a soldier standing in a hallway, keeping a promise to a dead brother who saved more people than he ever knew. That was for Fives. Silence. In our Star Wars, the real timeline, this moment never happens. Fives dies and the truth goes cold. Order 66 fires. The chips activate. Rex feels his own mind being torn apart aboard a Venator-class Star Destroyer during the Siege of Mandalore. Fights it long enough to choke out the words, "Find him, Fives. Find him, Fives." And survives only because Ahsoka hears him, captures him, and, with the help of astromech droids, cuts the chip out of his skull. The Jedi fall. The clones become murderers without ever choosing to be. And Fives, CT-5555, ARC Trooper, 501st Legion, the man who knew everything and couldn't make anyone believe him, becomes a ghost in the system. A warning nobody heard. A sacrifice that bought one man's freedom in a galaxy that lost its own. But in this timeline, the one where Palpatine's tongue slipped on a single syllable at the finish line of a 13-year race, Fives' truth didn't need anyone to believe it. It delivered itself. The conspiracy ate its own architect. The weapon turned on its maker. And every clone in the galaxy, for the first and only time, received an order without a chip in their head telling them how to feel about it. Fives died trying to give the clones a choice. One wrong number gave it to them. Not through rebellion, not through some heroic last stand or a dramatic speech in the Senate chamber. Through a mistake. A stupid, human, one-digit mistake made by a man who spent 13 years proving he was above such things. Turns out he wasn't. And somewhere in the Force, if clones go there, if the universe is kind enough to let soldiers rest, Fives is finally quiet. Not because the nightmares are over, because someone heard him. Subscribe for more stories like this.